Well, the topic for today's discussion is Oracle 11g Release 2 RDBMS software and database clone from a RAC environment to a non-RAC environment. Even before we move on to the actual steps and the process, let's understand why is there a requirement to do a clone, or why do people clone the software and the database. That is to replicate your production environment so that patch testing can be done in the cloned environment before you promote those patches to the production environment. So you do not directly promote a newly developed code or patches that Oracle might have recommended you for either performance issues, bug fixes or enhancements. We do not directly go and apply those patches to production. We apply them first to a non-prod environment, which is a copy of a production, and this is where one has to do a clone of production. Now the scenario that I am going to develop here is one of the most complex cloning scenarios, meaning there are 4 different types of complexities in a worst case which are involved between source and target. So in my case, the source is a RAC database, whereas the target is going to be a non-RAC database. So the binaries we have on the source are RAC enabled binaries, whereas on the target those same RAC enabled copied binaries will not work as is. So the first problem here is the feature enablement between the source and the target environment is different. On the source, the software is installed as Oracle OInstall or probably Oracle DBA, and on the target it's being installed as OraDev DBA Dev. More than the UID, I am worried about the GID part of it. So the group ownership of the software between source and the target is not the same. So the group ownership can cause problems during cloning. Well, the version is the same. On the source you have a 2-node 11.20.20 Oracle RAC enabled binaries, and the version would be the same on the target 11.20.20, but it will be non-RAC environment. The database is RACDB with 2 instances in the source, respectively running on alpha and beta. Those instances are RACDB1 and RACDB2, part of the database RACDB. And from this database you are supposed to clone another database called as DevDB. The Oracle home path on the source RDBMS Oracle home path is U002 APP Oracle product 11.2.0, whereas on the target I have deliberately kept the path as different to add one more complexity attribute to your cloning. What if the Oracle home path is different? On the source, it's a 2-node cluster across alpha and beta, whereas the target node in our case is gamma. Well, I don't have a gamma node, I am just referring to some name which indicates a standalone installation on some node. As of now, we do not have a node called as gamma. We will be using DNS machine for our cloning. The machine, that is a Linux machine, which as of today runs NetApp filer and your DNS server. It has some spare space. We'll be using that for our cloning. I am assuming the name of that node is gamma. Actually in reality it's your DNS machine. The point that I wanted to put forward is it's a standalone machine, not part of cluster. The last complexity is when you do a DB clone. Your source database is on to ASM, whereas on the target it's not on to ASM. So there it would be on the file system. So this is the last complex attribute of this clone. Any clone that you do in real life would be a subset of what we are discussing here today. So you may or may not have more than 4 complexities. Certainly you will never have more than 4. Up to 4 complexities could be there. You may have a subset of it. Probably your software owner is same. Then obviously that discussion to address this point will not be applicable in your clone. So the number of complexities that depends between the source and the target would be a subset of A, B, C and D problems that we are going to talk about throughout this session. So when here are some of the basic steps. Ensure that the target environment gamma or any other node that is a standalone node meets the Oracle software requirement. By that I mean the operating system must be certified, the operating system kernel must be certified, the necessary kernel parameter operating system limits, packages, patches should have been installed on the machine the way you do for any fresh installation of Oracle. Create the necessary group and user on that machine. In my case, I am planning to own that software as OraDev, where the group ownership would be that of DBA Dev. I deliberately kept it as different to add second complexity. Next is to copy the software Oracle home from either alpha or beta to the target machine gamma and change the ownership if required. Preferably do not use CP or SCP, because CP and SCP cannot preserve symbolic links. They do not also preserve the file's permission. So preferably do not use CP, SCP. The best way is to get a tarball. So compress tarball of the source, explode it onto the target. So let me log into one of those standalone boxes. This is the standalone box where we are planning to do a clone of. Well, I am directly logging in as root. I am assuming this was done by my sysadmin. And I am checking, is there a user called as OraDev? Or for that matter, so there is no user. Are there the kernel parameters in place? Well, they are not there. So I am going to copy the kernel parameters. This is as part of my exercise this, where I am saying OS must be certified. Kernel parameters must be set. Mandatory OS packages should have been installed. OS limits should have been set. These are some of those things that I am going to check. If not, I am going to realign my machine as per the requirement. So I am checking, is my operating system certified? It is indeed one of the certified distributions for 11g release 2 installation. I am checking, is my kernel version certified? My kernel version is also certified. Well, the next thing is about kernel parameters must have been set, which I do not have as of now. So I am going to copy the Oracle's recommended kernel parameters from my alpha box, which is the first node in a 2-node cluster. The kernel parameters in case of Linux are set in etc.sysctl.conf file, and these are those parameters that I am going to copy over. Well, I would copy it directly from here. If it's a repetition, let it be. the last couple of lines would be picked up. So I am logging on to my target machine as root user, and towards the end of it, well, I should have taken all the precautions not to copy anything duplicate, whatever. Even if it's duplicate, I don't care. In this particular case, it will be automatically overwritten by my new settings. Once you add the kernel parameters, either you have to reboot the machine or revise the kernel parameters by saying sysctl-p. So either reboot it or reread the configuration by typing sysctl-p. Well, one thing is for sure, now my kernel parameters are there in place. Next thing is to copy the operating system limits, which are given in case of Linux in limits.conf file for your Unix account. Here the Unix account was Oracle. Well, on the target, I am planning to have it as Ora dev. As of now, I do not have the group DBA dev. As of now, I do not have the user Ora dev. So first thing, I am going to add a new group called as DBA dev. I am going to add a new user who is part of the group DBA dev. Name of that user is Ora dev. I am going to set the password for Ora dev user as welcome one. This being a lab environment, I would verify that my setup is aligned. So now I have a user called as Ora dev who is a member of DBA dev, only one group. Now I would add in the necessary OS limits into the file limits.conf for my user. These are operating system max values, and wherever it is Oracle, I am going to change it to Ora dev. So my operating system limits have been defined. You need to ensure that the mandatory operating system packages should have been installed. Well, all our machines should have all the mandatory packages except for one doubtful case of libaio development libraries. So I am checking categorically libaio related packages. I should see 4 of them. libaio 64-bit and the development library 64-bit. libaio 32-bit and the development library is 32-bit. Both of them are present in my case. All other packages I have, prior to recording this video, ensured that I already have them in place. I was skeptical about the existence of libaio development libraries, so I only checked for the existence of libaio development libraries. Here the basic assumption is all other packages were installed during the operating system installation itself. The only exception to this rule is, even if I select everything during the installation, the development libraries are still missing from the OS, which were later on installed. This was just a step to verify whether they are really there or not. So mandatory OS packages and the operating system limits are there. I already created the group DBA dev and the user Ora dev, who is a member of that one. Next thing is to copy the entire Oracle software from the source machine to target, that too avoiding SCP and CP. Use either rsync or targzip method. Well, in my case, my software is going to be installed under, instead of U003 and app, I am planning to install it under NetApp app. So I will ensure that the NetApp app directory is created. Necessary ownership on that directory has been set for NetApp app. And then I can start with copying the software. So I am creating this directory on my target standalone machine. I am changing the ownership of that directory to that of, I am changing the ownership of directory to that of oradev dba dev. Then I would go to that directory and I would start copying the software from source to target. So I am copying it by saying SSH connect me as root on 172.168.203.2. This is the IP address of my alpha box, and once there, take me to the top level directory under which my Oracle home exists, that is U002 app Oracle product. I will confirm, is this really the location of my Oracle home here. And this is where my 11.2.0 Oracle home is, which is roughly around 4.6 GB, 4.1 GB. So I am going to copy it all over to the target host using tar gzip method. Once I am into that directory, I am starting the compression to standard output device. That's why there is no name of the tar file. I am directly compressing the directory on my screen, followed by output of tar command going as an input to gzip to compress those contents before they are transferred over the wire from alpha to my target machine DNS, and they are all on my screen. So unzipping them from my screen and extracting those unzipped contents from here, it will directly reproduce that directory here itself. So it's a one combined command that is doing tar, gzip, scp, gunzip and untar. 5 different activities in one single command without eating extra disk space. Well, while this is happening, I am checking what are the highest running activities on my alpha beta, or for that matter on my alpha node. Well, I would have expected to see gzip, sshd and tar, and this is what I see here now. So on the source there is a tar happening, there is a gzip of those tar contents, and there is a on the wire copy of those compressed contents happening from alpha. If I see what are the top running processes on my target machine, duplicating my session here, I would see an untar and an unzip and a SSH process. So there's an untar, an unzip and a SSH process. This is what is consuming my machine's CPU as of now. Well, when I go to NetApp app, I can watch my directory growing in size, which means the process is on. As of now, 756 MB of software has been copied from source to target. Well, while this is going on, there is no fun watching this alone until 4.1 GB is done. Let's understand what after the software copy that I am going to do. So we have copied the software, extracted it. I am going to set up a dummy environment for my target as an oradev user, which points to Oracle base, Oracle home, Oracle SID, so as to get ready for my cloning scenario. So here I am as user oradev. I am setting a env file db.env with the regular environment variables including Oracle base, Oracle home, Oracle SID, I am planning to create a database named devdb. Path LD library path. If required, TNS admin. Well, nothing special. All of them are just regular environment variables: Oracle base, Oracle home, Oracle SID path, LD library path, and optionally TNS admin. So my environment has already been set up. I will source it. So my environment is all set. Let's appreciate what are the problems one is going to see because of your source and targets are not a ditto copy of each other. The first problem that I am going to address is the GID differences between the source software owner and the target software owner. So the first problem I am going to address is the GID difference. Set up your environment and try to log into SQL Plus /sysdb and see what happens. It complains about insufficient privileges. Question is why? Answer is group names between source, which is either oinstall or db, I don't know, and on the target, which is dba dev, are not matching. And this understanding has been hard coded by Oracle in a file. That who should be allowed in to log in as sysdba. As per the source, it could be either oinstall user or dba user. Whereas on my target, my user does not belongs to oinstall or for that matter dba. Here the group itself is dba dev. That's why it says you do not have sufficient privileges to log in as sysdba. Well, how to fix this problem? Take a backup of your Oracle Home rdbms libconfig.o file. This is where the group is hard coded. It's a binary file. So you are not supposed to directly edit config.o being a binary file. So you rename it. Then correct the text version of this file, which is either config.c for AIX and Linux or config.s in case of Solaris. Edit the file, change the source group name to that of target group name. So change it from oinstall or dba to dba dev, as might be the case. Save the file. But saving the config.c file will not automatically generate the binary version of it. Now generate the config.o from the modified config.c or config.s by invoking relink all. Relink is a shell script, all is the argument. The shell script itself resides in Oracle Home bin directory. At the end of relink all, you will see whatever config.o was missing or renamed, you now have a new version of config.o. And now try to log in /sysdba. This time it won't complain about insufficient privileges. So it knows now for sure anybody who is a member of dba dev group is actually allowed to log in as sysdba, and to some extent sys operator. Once I edit that file, it will be clear. Well, as of now I am checking, my software copy is just done. And my software directories are owned by oradev, dba dev. So first things first, let's try to set up the environment, which I have already done in a parallel session, and let me try to log in as sysdba to see. Let me source it, because by the time the software was not copied. Now I am saying SQL plus / sysdba. Well, it says the command not found, which means my environment setting somewhere is problematic. I am editing my db.env and I said my software is under NetApp app 11.2.0. Let's verify. Your Oracle home seems to be somewhere else altogether. It's under RDBMS folder, so that's where it was hitting an issue. Well, I'm not going to keep it under RDBMS. I will instead move it and keep it under relevant directory. So this is where my Oracle home is now. I am trying to log in now. It says insufficient privileges. We know the reason why. So I am going to Oracle home rdbms lib. This is where I see the config.o and config.c. Well, this is the file that is causing problem. It says only I will try to do strings -a on it to see if I can read anything out of this file. Well, nothing much is readable from this file, but one thing is for sure, it is talking about some group which is not DBA dev. I am going to move this file as source, and instead I am going to edit the file config.c. You see here everywhere it is DBA. So who is allowed to log in as sysdba? A person belonging to a DBA group. Who is allowed to log in as sys operator? A person belonging to a DBA group. In my case, that's not true any longer. So in my case, it has to be DBA dev. So I have saved this file and now I am invoking relink all. So it generates a brand new config.o referring to config.c which I have just edited. Once the relinking part is done, we'll see what's there in the config.o file by typing this command to see if I can read something from that binary file. And once that is also verified, then I am going to log in as sysdba and sys operator to check whether or not it allows me to log in now. So it's all done. Now I am checking strings -a. You see here what's the group now in that file. It now says DBA dev. Well, with this, if I try to log in as sysdba, it allows me. Well, with this, if I try to log in as sys operator, it allows me. Because in both the places I said the group name is DBA dev. Well, the first problem is fixed. You need to take the corrective measures only when the groups are not matching between source and target. So I could successfully log in as sysdba. Now there is a second and a bigger problem part to the story. The feature enablement between the source and the target is different. The RDBMS home that I have copied is RAC enabled binaries. So RAC support is enabled on my source, and those same binaries I have copied to the target. Now the problem is, for RAC enabled binaries to work, you need to have grid infrastructure software installed on your machine, which in my case is not. So when my RDBMS instance is attempted or attempts a startup, it tries to communicate with the grid daemons. Since grid software itself is not installed on my machine, the communication fails and my instance cannot even start for that matter. So as part of this exercise, where we are trying to understand the problem and the probable fix, the problem is feature enablement is different. Try to set up a dummy P file such as init.devdb.ora and try to start up the devdb instance in no mount state and see what happens. So let's do the setup. I am trying to set up init.devdb.ora with bare minimum parameters such as db underscore name is equal to devdb, compatible is equal to 11.2.0, control underscore files equal to wherever is my control file, netapp app ora data control 01.ctl. I know I do not have any control file as of now, but with the bare minimum parameters set up, db name, compatible and control files, I am going to start up this instance to see what happens. I am saying startup no mount. At least it should have no problems going to no mount state. But it says ora 29702 error occurred in cluster group service operation. So try to set up a P file and try to start up your target instance in a no mount state. It can't start and it fails with this error. Question is, you must understand why. Software that you have copied is RAC enabled, but on the target node, wherever you are, is a standalone node. There is no grid infrastructure for cluster software installed, and that's why you are getting this error. Let's understand how the Oracle executable is built. How to fix it is the next issue, but understanding of how is the Oracle executable built. You have an Oracle executable which is present in Oracle home bin. If I check, this is the file that is used by your instance. This file is having problems. Well, let's understand what type of problems. For that I will have to go on to alpha. I am on the source machine, setting my environment to database. Well, I don't see any such environment setup here. So I am setting the environment on my source the moment I log in, I see what all features are enabled in these binaries, in the banner itself. The features that are enabled are partitioning, real application clusters with ASM, OLAP, which is online analytical processing, data mining, and real application testing. The same features are shown when I type exit command to quit from a running instance. Now, out of which these two features are causing problems because both are dependent on grid infrastructure software. Partitioning, OLAP, data mining and real application testing does not depend on grid infrastructure. But real application cluster and ASM have a tight coupling with the grid infrastructure software. They have a great dependence, and I do not have that grid infrastructure software installed onto the target machine is what is causing the problems. So I must understand how the Oracle executable is built. I am referring to this Oracle executable. How is the Oracle home bin Oracle built? At the very bottom of that executable is the core RDBMS engine, and then there are a lot of add-on features which are nothing but library calls. Those library calls can be seen using LDD command. So on top of my core RDBMS engine there is a data mining layer functionality, but where is the functionality coming from? Some DLL file, some shared object file. On the similar lines, OLAP is another add-on functionality, partitioning is another add-on functionality, real application testing is another add-on functionality, real application cluster with ASM is another add-on functionality. If I try to take a dig at a real application cluster, it is made up of two broad functionalities as such: GCS Global Cache Service and GES Global On-Queue Service, which is provided by two layers, libskgxp and libskgxn2. These are the two libraries that it uses, and these two libraries require grid infrastructure for a given machine. Otherwise these two libraries cannot communicate. This layer is what is causing a problem, because of which you are getting this error message. Well, let's try to see, is that really the case. I said LDD followed by the name and complete path of an executable. So it says I need this and I need this. One of it is libskgxp and another one is libskgxn2. Now there are some object files, function APIs somewhere, those which provides you GCS and GS functionality, and these two libraries are required for your Oracle executable. As of now all those libraries are present in Oracle Home lib. But there are certain artifacts that depend on grid infrastructure which is causing you this issue. So you must get rid of this layer, remove this layer, erase this layer. If your Oracle executable is pointing to those functionalities, erase it off from your executable. Well, who can do this? Only a programmer who has a good command over GNU-C compiler can type this command to eliminate calls to those respective libraries. I am not a programmer. So how can one enable or disable a specific feature? Oracle has provided you with a make script. A make script uses something called as target, quite similar to that of mnemonics. This make file itself is Oracle Home rdbms lib ins_rdbms.mk file. This is that file. It comes with targets and what flags needs to be passed to the linker module as part of that target. If you open it, you will come to know. if I open this file, I am looking for a word called as rack off. I am looking for another match of rack off. So here it has defined, when someone passes rack off as a command line flag, what is that the linker module is supposed to do? Now I am not a programmer, I don't need to drill into the details of it. So it is saying KNLOPT local, RDBMS lib rack off, SKGXP default, SKGXN default, dollar silent, AR print, lib KNLOPT. Well, I am not a programmer. This is a programmer who has written those mnemonics. What needs to be done while relinking? On the similar line, there is ASM on and ASM off as well, which is automatically dependent on your rack feature. Well, what I need to know is only what are those flags that targets that I need to pass on to add a feature and to remove that feature. So if I wanted to add rack feature, I would have said rack on. If I was supposed to remove it, I would have said rack off. Rat on, rat off. Part on, part off. OLAP on, OLAP off. DM on, DM off. So one side of the story tells you what needs to be done to get it added, what needs to be done if it needs to be removed. So well, as a non-programmer, I am only worried about what is the name of the MK file and what is the name of the target one has to pass. Well, I am passing that now. So well, as a non-programmer, I am saying make -f ins_rdbms.mk rack_off. I will try to study what exactly it is doing. It says remove the skgxp file, which is a shared object library. Copy the default one from lib and copy it here. Remove the skgxn file, copy it from the default directory to here. AR is the archiver command. D for delete. Delete from this archive file kcsm.o and then create a new archive by adding to it ksnkcx.o. All these actions were defined in the MK file by the developer, who knows how to relink it if you do not want the rack support. So I have done the necessary things, but my Oracle executable is not relinked yet. I am going to relink it now. What do I need to do next after adding or removing a specific feature? You must relink the Oracle executable after enabling or disabling a specific feature by saying make -f ins_rdbms.mk I Oracle is the target. Means relink only one executable, that is Oracle executable. If not, you can always relink all the executables, which automatically includes Oracle. But this is a very targeted exercise. I know there's nothing that depends on this other than Oracle. There's no fun relinking all executables all over again. So I am just relinking the Oracle executable. And these are the linker module commands that are passed. So this is how it is passing on those various options. Well, I don't care really. You see the file is generated, relinked now. You can see the date timestamp. July 15th, 11:14 AM today is exactly now. Now I use this particular executable and try to start my instance in no mount state. This time there was no problem. Well, understand what you expect when you type exit. There is partitioning, there is OLAP, there is data mining, there is real application testing, but there is no real application cluster, there is no ASM. So we have addressed the feature enablement related problem. So we have successfully disabled the layer that was causing problem because of the missing grid infrastructure binaries. Try to start up the dummy instance in no mount state, it should work now. Now I am trying to address the third problem. That is, what if between the source and the target your Oracle home binaries are not in the same location? Well, there are many utilities that will have problem. Oracle home path is different. What would not work if paths are different? There are multiple scripts files under Oracle home which would be pointing to an invalid source path. There are many soft links also which will point to an invalid path. I am going to Oracle home bin and I am editing DBCA, DBUA, NetCA, some of the executables. Is this my correct current path? No, this is not my correct current path. This was the path of my source Oracle home. I am going to DBUA. DBUA utility is also pointing to the source Oracle path, which is not correct. I am going to NetCA. NetCA is also pointing to a path which is no longer valid on this machine. Long and short of it, there may be many files which might have hard coded Oracle paths. Obviously, you can't expect those utilities to work as is on the target in the target environment. I am in Oracle home bin trying to check my symbolic links. There is a local builder utility in your Oracle home bin directory which is pointing to the local builder utility in a path which is no longer true on the target machine. This path was correct on the source but not here. So there are many problems in your software. Well, let's fix them. So after copying the software from source to target, there is another problem. There is no central inventory. There is no inventory pointer file. So I am trying to say opatch ls inventory. Let's see if it works. It says no, because it says nowhere I see ora-nst.loc, because Oracle software was never installed on it. It was silently copied over. So there is no ora-nst.loc. There is no central inventory. So if I try to do an upgrade, if I try to apply patches, none of it would work for this Oracle home because central inventory itself is missing. Well, let's apply one common fix for all. Oracle provides you a cloning utility which is present in Oracle home clone bin directory. Name of that Perl script is clone.pl. It's a Perl script. Run the cloning script to fix all these problems. Which problems? Hard coded paths, soft links pointing to invalid sources, missing ora-nst and ora-inventory. The gap between the source group name and the target group name, which we have anyways fixed manually, can also be fixed by this cloning utility. Group name mismatch, path mismatch and invalid soft links, inventory updates and relinks. All these problems can be fixed by your clone.pl script. Well, I don't know how. So I am directly going to my folder Oracle home clone bin. There I see a Perl script clone.pl. Well, I don't know how to run it. I am simply running it as clone.pl. It prints me the help manual. Now I would pass in the necessary RT command line parameters. It says, tell me where is your Oracle home. I said my new Oracle home is. It says, tell me where is the Oracle base. I said my Oracle base is under. It says, tell me what name you would like to give to this Oracle home. I said, whatever. This is just an identifier. It says, tell me who should be able to log in as sysdba. It says, tell me who should be able to log in as sys operator. And run it. So I passed on all these artifacts and ran my clone.pl, something very similar here. At the end of it, it will ask you to run from the central inventory location oranst root.sh the way you do it after a fresh install, and from your Oracle home root.sh the way you do it after a fresh RDBMS installation. So it says installation successful, linking in progress. It will relink all my executables. It will create the missing inventory pointer file. It will create the central inventory. And at the end of it, it would ask me to run those two scripts, oranst root.sh and root.sh. So it says setup in progress, setup is successful. And at the end it says, could you run on Gamma or whatever machine you are on to, this as root and this as root. I already have a session to my machine as root where I am running oranst root.sh and root.sh. Well, let's see now. I am editing only one of it, dbca. All hard-coded entries are modified. I am checking symbolic links. They are all corrected. I am checking for the existence of oranst.loc. It's there now. This was not there earlier. I can check where my central inventory is. My central inventory is here. Well, I don't believe this. I go here, go to contents XML, and I see, is there a file called as inventory.xml? It is there. Can I log in to my binaries as sysdba? Well, I could. Can I log in as sys operator? Well, I could. Now the only problem. I am in the central inventory contents XML file folder. There I am checking how is my inventory looking. I said inventory.xml. Now one thing that is still problematic is this. It says name of your Oracle home is clone. This is what I typed. This is the path, and it seems to be a 2-node installation, which is not correct. This is not a 2-node installation. It's only a standalone installation. There is a way to run attach, detach, remove node scripts. But in essence, what they would do, they would go here, they would remove this line, this line, this line, this line. Now anywhere does it tells me that it's a 2-node installation? Nowhere it tells me that it's a 2-node installation. Well, let's check opatch ls inventory now, which never worked before. So you might anticipate all is well. Well, I want to tell you all is not well. Number one, it's taking a long time. So somewhere it is still thinking. Well, even after doing this, you have to manually rectify inventory.xml and remove the nodes section. From it. Well, it seems like after removing it, it should all be okay. Somehow it is still reporting it as a 2-node installation, which means apart from central inventory, there must be somewhere where this knowledge is kept. Well, it's in local inventory. I am going to Oracle Home inventory contents XML. There is a file called as Oracle Home properties.xml. which is still causing these problems. I am checking what's there in this Oracle Home property. You see, there is a section cluster info which starts here and ends here, and here is where it says node name is alpha, remote node is beta. So I am going to remove this entire section manually. After which, if I say opatch ls inventory, it shouldn't take time, it shouldn't report you any problem. Now your Oracle Home is fully functional. Next part is to start doing the database clone. To start doing a clone, I must take a backup. I am using an RMAN duplicate method to traditional way of doing a backup and cloning using RMAN. And to start doing an RMAN, my source database must be in archive log mode if I want to perform a hard backup, which is not in my case. So I am going to stop my database, start up only one instance, convert it to archive log mode, send the archives to ASM disk group, then start up both the instances and then perform a hard backup, because your prod database in a real environment would always be running in archive log mode. So I am going to start up mount, and once it is mounted, I am going to say alter database archive log, and once that is done, I am going to say alter system set log underscore archive underscore dest underscore 1 is equal to location is equal to plus data, scope equal to sp file, and SID is equal to both. I am saying archive log list. Well, it's enabled, but I still do not see the last command into effect. Well, I am setting it one more time. Alter system set log underscore archive underscore dest underscore 1 is equal to location is equal to plus data, scope equal to sp file, SID is equal to star. I wrote this command twice only for one reason, because half of the command was not there visible. Now I am shutting down my instance. And I would start both the instances now. So I said srvctl start database -d prod. Once both the instances are started, I will validate my archives are going to ASM disk group, and I will initiate an rman backup. This is to simulate a live environment where your production is always running in archive log mode, and you are supposed to take a hard backup of it to do a clone of your prod elsewhere. And this all looks good to me. Now I am going to connect in through rman target is equal to slash, and I am going to fire a regular rman backup, assuming I am going to do that backup onto disk under tmp mount point. Well, this is the rman command I am willing to fire. Run allocate channel ch1 device type disk, allocate channel ch2 device type disk, backup as compressed backup set, format is equal to whatever format, tag is equal to whatever tag, database. Backup as compressed backup set, format is equal to this, tag equal to archive clone, archive log all, skip inaccessible, releasing both the channels, and pretty much that's it. So my backup is on. Now in our environment, your prod database is sitting on a NetApp filer, which is a NetApp filer not as a hardware, connected through a 10 gigabit Ethernet, or for that matter with a fiber channel. It's connected via a simulated line of 100 Mbps, and it's a simulator which is going to take some time for us to finish the backup. Well, while that's going on, let's move on to the other topic while the backups are being taken. There's nothing that it's going to prompt me now while the backups are going on. Let's understand what I'm going to do on target. Once my backup pieces are ready, I'm going to copy these backup pieces into the same location on the target host. I would start the target instance devdb with a dummy p file with bare minimum parameters in a no mount state. I would ensure that my p file contains a parameter underscore no underscore recovery underscore through underscore reset logs is equal to true. This is given in one of the metalink notes. I will explain why. Well, let's do this first blindly. and then let's understand why we did it. Well, as of now, my instance is not running. I am going to Oracle Home DBS and I am editing my DevDB. As per the Oracle guideline, I am adding this hidden parameter. Why hidden? Because it starts with an underscore. Oracle says add this parameter. I have added it. Oracle says start up the instance in no mount state. Well, I started. I am going to my TNS admin location and checking my TNS names.ora. This anyways looks good, except for the fact that I want to point it to a specific instance by adding instance underscore name is equal to prod1. And then I want to check, can I connect to my sys user as this TNS entry? I don't know what was the name of that TNS entry. Prod. I am indeed connected to my source instance, which means my TNS entry is looking all good. This is required for me to fire on the rman duplicate command. Well, let's understand why you were supposed to add this. So define a TNS entry on the target which points to your source instance running on alpha. Test that TNS entry works from gamma and it indeed allows you to log in as sysdba. Once that is done, if this fails for some reason, then probably you may not have the correct password. Create the password file and bounce the instance. If it works, well and good. That means the source instance has indeed a password file set in exclusive mode. Now from the target machine, standalone gamma machine, I would connect to my source instance and I would connect to my auxiliary instance. Auxiliary instance in my case is DevDB. And then I would start doing the rman duplicate command. RAC to non-RAC clones would fail due to rman 06136 Oracle error from the auxiliary database ORA 38856 cannot mark instance unnamed instance 2 with a redo thread 2 as enabled. This is why we added this hidden parameter. Now understand why is this error you are getting. Your source contains instance prod1 and prod2. This is bound to redo thread 1 and this is bound to redo thread 2. When rman performs a clone, it knows where it has to bind redo thread 1. DevDB, name of my instance is DevDB. But it does not find the second instance. That's where the thread mapping fails. It says I know thread 1 is mapped to DevDB, but I don't know what is the name of that unnamed instance to which I am supposed to map the thread 2. That is where it throws an error. Unnamed instance to redo thread 2, mapping failed. That's where Oracle says to overcome this error, you need to type in this parameter in your parameter file, which says if there is an unmapped instance, go ahead, unmap it, let it be unmapped. Even if a recovery fails for this reason, let the recovery fail and still go ahead by skipping that particular thread. I am going on to source and my backup is still going on. Well, let's log into and see which thread is being consumed by my current instance. My current instance is consuming thread 1. This logic itself is this mapping itself is stored in your control file. So if you want to see where in control file, you can take a dump of your control file to see, and there it will show you the thread to instance mapping. On the source, it's all working fine, but on target it will not work fine because there is only a single instance, but the database has two redo threads. After which I am going to run this rman block. Allocate channel device type disk, allocate an auxiliary channel aux1 device type disk. I am going to manually map all the source file to target ones. Remember, your source files are onto ASM, whereas on the target they are going to be under a folder netapp app ora data. Let me log in and see where my control file is pointing. My control file is under netapp app ora data. As of now, that folder itself is not there. So I am going to create this folder. Otherwise, my rman restore command would fail, saying the folder itself is not there. So I created an empty folder before I fire even the rman backup. Well, while my backup is still going on, I will log on to source to obtain a file mapping. First file is system, second one is sysox. First file is system, second one is sysox. Third one is undo TBS, which is already undo TBS1. Fourth one is users. Fifth one is undo TBS 2. So I have mapped all source file to their destination equivalents, because in my case the source file are all onto a disk group named data. So I have mapped them. Well, I want to do similar exercise for temp files. There is only one temp file. So I said whatever is my temp file under prod, it has to be renamed as temp01.dbf, followed by a duplicate target database to devdb, the log file clauses, and that's pretty much of it. Let's see where our backup stands as of now. Well, the backup seems to have completed for the database. Now it's doing the backup of archives. So whatever archives are available, my backup has finished. All my backup is available with the name clone star in TMP. I am going to copy all of them to root at 172.168.203.1 under TMP. Once my backup is available under TMP, I am going to change the ownership of it to ora dev dba dev, so that that user can read that backup. It's already transferred. I changed the ownership, I validated it. So my backup is already there on the target machine now. It's time to fire rman. So here I am saying rman target is equal to sys/sys password at TNS entry, auxiliary as slash. So it says I am connected to the target database prod, auxiliary database devdb, which is currently in a no mounted state. Once there, I'm just going to run through my rman block, which would help me do a clone. So my target control file will be restored. My instance will be momentarily renamed as prod. It will then rename my instance by changing the name of the database. You can see from prod to devdb. It will restart it. It will then start restoring the data files. So it is now, as of now, restoring my control file. It has ran my set new name commands, and now those files are being restored. So each of the files from my backup would be restored here. Well, while that's going on, let's understand what you are supposed to do in the post clone steps. Once RMAN has cloned your devdb, what is that you are supposed to do? Number one, if DB ID is same for your target database devdb, use NID command to change this. Well, this is not a problem for us. This is only required if the clone was done without RMAN, because when you do a RMAN duplicate, RMAN also changes the DB ID. It's optionally required. If Oracle Home path has changed between source and target, which is in our case, then you will have to rectify the library objects as well. All your libraries needs to be changed accordingly. That's it, my database is cloned. There is one small issue with this one now. Oracle momentarily created SP file during the clone, but if you check it, it's not there. So it created it and it destroyed it. So I can say now, create SP file from memory. It says SP file is already there. This is the problem. So I am saying create P file from memory. Now all my running artifacts are captured in my P file. And later on, once I bounce it, I will create from P file my SP file without losing any of my current artifacts. Well, I will do it at a later time. Let's try to fix the libraries. I am checking what's the matter with my libraries. My libraries are all pointing to an Oracle Home, which is not here, it's on the source. Whereas my libraries should have pointed to this Oracle Home. So I am now saying create or replace library owner dot library name as create or replace library owner dot library name as this is invalid on the source itself, so I can't go and correct it. So leave it as is. Now I can rerun the query to validate that my libraries are indeed looking good. So these are now pointing to the correct .so files at a OS level. Well, let's validate how many invalids are there on the source. So ideally there must be then zero invalids on the target as well, which is not the case. Compile them. I am compiling the invalids. So I said util recomp underscore parallel, using two parallel workers compile all my invalids. Now the invalid count is 0. You must also rectify if there are any wrong directories. You must go and replace those wrong directories. These paths are not correct, right? So if I try to run a data pump utility now, it will not work. So I must go and correct this thing. I am giving you just an example. See, there is a problem here. This library has a missing slash. Well, now I am creating the missing directory objects. This path is certainly not correct. Well, I will correct it now. That was supposed to be under Oracle Home RDBMS log, so I created the directory at a OS level, and then I will create a directory type of an object. So I am saying create or replace directory as whatever is my path. Similar way, rectify all your directories, otherwise those directory objects, whenever they are being used, it will not work, it will error out. Assuming that you have rectified all other directories on your own. Fix all DB links, otherwise it could lead to a bigger disaster. If you are using any DB links, you must change them. I am not using any. Select tablespace name contents from DBA table spaces. You would notice there are two undo table spaces. One was for instance 1, another was for instance 2. But your database on the target can only make use of one at a time. So I am checking which is the one that I am using now. That means the second one is not required. So drop it. If you want to register your target database with Arman Recovery Catalog, register it now. Well, there is one more step that is pending for me, that we have created a P file, but we do not have an SP file. Oracle recommends always a SP file. So I am shutting down. And then I would simply say create SP file from P file followed by start. That's it, my clone is ready. This is now a ditto copy of your product. Clear? So this is how one can clone the software and database. We have addressed here 4 different issues in our clone. Feature enablement related problem, the group different between source and target is another problem. The Oracle Home was itself a problem because paths are different, and my source was on ASM, the target was under a file system. All of it has been addressed.